Hey everybody, it's your quick step for this week. If my voice is a little nasally, it's because I have a cold. I recorded Thursday's video when I was in even worse shape, so next video I get a little bass. Anyways, today is a talk about automation, unemployment, all sorts of fun stuff. One of the things I suggest you do is click on the... Oh, no. Cards go here, and you will be linked to the CGP grade video on the oncoming problem of automation. And you can, if you haven't seen it yet, it was very popular when it came out, but it's definitely worth a watch. Anyways, CGP grade's video is good, but it's not complete. It's very good though. So very recently the United States announced that its unemployment numbers have actually been dropping. It's the lowest that it has been in 17 years. This has more to do with the fact that they keep tweaking the way that they define unemployment, but you know, whatever. Namely that unemployment figures look at participation by people who are actively looking for jobs in the last few months and counts all employment as employment. What this doesn't factor is that it only checks for people who have been looking for jobs in the last few months, so it doesn't count those who have dropped out of the workforce in place of finding a job when they wanted to. It also doesn't count underemployment, people who have jobs but work insufficient hours to make ends meet or are working outside of their field of expertise, so their skills are being underutilized. It also doesn't say anything about wages, something that has been stagnant since the 1970s and has been in many countries. This is important because of inflation. Money becomes worth a little bit less every single year. Some years more than others, but it's important to know that if wages don't go up every year by about 1%, you are effectively taking a pay cut. This is what's really making everybody feel like they're poorer every single year, but for some reason we blame taxes because... reasons. Now I could say all sorts of things like that Trump, just like Bill Clinton when he claimed good job numbers 17 years ago actually, that these are more trying to weasel out of answering the problem of unemployment. They are finding low-skilled, underpaid work that you really can't survive on and claiming that that is somehow the solution to unemployment, because then they can say unemployment is low, and people who don't look at the numbers or who don't pay attention to how crappy things are in the world seem to take that as a bonus. And Donald Trump is all about lying to look good. I mean, that's basically his entire career. He actually became president that way. That and, you know, stoking the fires of racism. But, you know, people say I have too many opinions on this channel. They're giving me the shut up and sing message very often. I'm not ready to make nice. I'm not ready to back down. That's the second time I've sang this song on Step Back. And also the second time that I did it in response to people getting mad at me for, you know what, I'm gonna stop. Why I am talking about unemployment and why I'm talking about CGP Grey is because both of them are signs of the beginning of the end. Neoliberalism is late capitalism, which is a term you probably heard on the internet but don't know exactly what it means. Late capitalism is this term that, to actually phrase a pretty history-learned person that I was very surprised to find out, Matt Christman, it's capitalism eating itself because it's ran out of things to expand into. So as returns get smaller and smaller every year, capitalist countries need to basically devour themselves. Another word that has been used is endocolonization, and basically start to prey off themselves by doing things like reducing wages and cutting rights for workers and all sorts of fun stuff in order to keep profits up. That can only go for so long before these things that are basically internal contradictions in capitalism, which we'll talk about in a bit, start to come to full circle. And we don't have a solution because we can picture the world ending easier than we can picture the end of capitalism. Capitalism, by the way, I'm going to define in this video as the private ownership of, now this is going to sound real jargony, the means of production, which means the things that make the things that we need. So the factories, the ships, the trucks, the companies, all the things that we need to do to make the things that we need. And we have this contradiction where we have a lot of people under a capitalist system who can't own a means of production of their own. They can't own a business. So they must work for somebody who does own a means of production. That means that they need to trade their time of their life for money. So we need money to buy food and pay rent. Yes, paying to not get kicked out of the home you live in. And also, capitalism requires infinite growth in order to be successful. If you look, there's always talk about the economy growing year on year, and if it's not growing, that's considered very, very bad. Unfortunately, we have a finite population, a finite planet, and finite resources, which means that infinite expansion is a suicidal farce. Anyways, people sell their time for money to get things that they need to live. In order to make money to get the things on stores, people need to have money to buy things. So companies need people to have money, but also are incentivized because of, efficiencies and things like that, to have as few workers being paid as little as possible. Those are what we like to call in Marxist economics a contradiction. Because there's a third aspect. Technology. Automation. All of a sudden, the amount of work needed to make the products that all humans need actually was surpassed about maybe 50 years ago, but even so, it's getting even more crazy. In order to make all the products that everybody needs to live in luxury forever, the amount of time required to do that is going down. We have already passed the point where we can give everybody pretty much everything they need to be happy, but Jeff Bezos needs to go to space, so we can't distribute it evenly, sorry guys. But it means that the more automated things get, the more available commodities are, the price goes down, but there are fewer and fewer people making money, because most people work for wages, to buy the things that are being sold. Which means you hit a breaking point when you have nobody who can afford the things that they are then working to make. Or that there's so many people who can't work because there's not enough jobs left for them. See the CGP Grey video about the whole thing about horses and people. That all of a sudden capitalism kind of doesn't make sense anymore. It is like literally a nonsensical economic system. It would just break. It's already been breaking for over 40 years, but it's going to finally break its spine. And this is a part where capitalism will either have to end or radically change its form. And that's where people will say I'm sure. You just go down there and click, and you're gonna see the word universal basic income, or just basic income, or UBI. Because that's the first thing that came to mind to some commenter who didn't watch to the end of this video. Basic income is a idea that's been pitched by both conservatives and not socialists. Socialists don't want to get, right-wing people to center right-wing people. So, liberals and conservatives alike. And some socialists like it because it is, in many ways, a step forward. But basically, it is money for everybody. Whether or not you worked, whether or not you did anything, as long as you lived for a month, you get money. It's a good idea. It is definitely better than not having it, but it is definitely a stopgap in order to keep this going. Remember what I said about inflation earlier? That money that you get every month from the government will go down every year because that money is not going to be tied to inflation, so it's not tied to politics or living expenses. So the first things you will probably see is these poor slums of people who live outside the city who are unemployable, and because of living expenses, they are forced to live in parts of the country that don't have any work and have low cost of living. So trailer parks for miles. And then the cities are going to be a place for the professional classes and the hyper-rich, for those who have the highest seat on the Titanic as it's going down. So basic income will probably do something like that. It'll also get rid of pretty much any union's rights or any union's labor ability to work. Basically, the power to strike is not going to mean anything because if you get fired for no reason, you could just go on basic income, so workers' protections would go away real quick. So it has its problems. It's better than not having it, but it has its problems. What is the solution? If you have one, please write it to the Nobel Economics Division because I imagine they have an award for you. But that is definitely going to be, in my opinion, the central issue of our time as we come into the end of capitalism's ability to function. What are we going to do? How are we going to treat each other? We've already figured out two options. One is to get rid of capitalism and make things equal for everyone. The Sanders option. Or the other option, which is to ignore the systemic problems that are making things worse and instead blame it on people who have darker skin than you. That seems to be the one that is the most popular these days, but it is one that I think does not work and should probably be stopped post haste. Anyways, everybody, May 19th, 7 p.m. at Disgraceland in Toronto, there's going to be a YouTuber meetup between myself, Mexi, and Thought Slime, and I want to see lots of Step Back fans come out to that because it's going to be a fun time, it's going to be raucous, it's going to be off the wall. I don't know why I'm so hyper. But anyways, this has been Tristan. This has been Step Back. This has been Quick Step. Big new video format. I'm changing the video format of Step Back on Thursday. Check it out. I'm very excited. Peace out.